Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm interrupting my intended rotation of reviews to bring you a surprise review. This is the new Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy spoiler box. Brought to you by Netflix. Boy, they really want you to know this is Netflix, don't they? That branding is prominent. So, for the uninitiated, the spoiler box was revealed at the Toy Fair, I think. And they revealed all these other ones. I lose track of all these conventions and stuff these days, but it was revealed and they wouldn't tell you what was in it. They're just like, hey, trust us and give us $60 and hope for the best. So it's been a pretty controversial move, right? You're spending $60 and you don't really know what you're gonna get. Now, because I basically live on the internet lately, I already know what to expect in here. But I'm going to, do this on the assumption that you guys haven't seen it all yet. So, I guess, spoiler warning now, if you don't want this ruined for you, obviously, tune out for now. But if you already know it's in here and you just want to see it, or you don't mind a spoiler, then, we're going to go ahead and proceed. So this will be like my other videos. We'll take a look at the packaging, which is very unique this time around. We'll open it up, see what's inside, look at, any instructions or whatever, and obviously there's going to be some Transformers in there, so we'll be looking at them in their different modes. And then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts on this rather unprecedented product. So the first thing you see, it's this massive box, and it's done up like it's a Cybertronian ammo container. You can see it's got kind of like the little flip top right there. All this nice detailing. You got the War for Cybertron logo prominently displayed. It says spoilers inside, and then it says the same thing in 4 other languages. That way, Transformers. Right here, you got a little bit of Ancient Autobot font, and this says, been working on my Ancient Autobot. This is Battlefield Rung. So that's a minor spoiler. It spoils what's in the box, not anything about the show yet. But yeah, there's a redeco of Rung in here called Battlefield Rung. So we'll see that here shortly. Turn it on the side, and you got kind of another spoiler. Here's a picture of Ultra Magnus. So, gee, I wonder what the big toy is in here. Another warning, spoilers inside. Got some cool little bullet holes in here, neat touch. And then here is just kind of the latch where you're supposed to open this. I've already gone and cut the clear tape holding this shut. So let's go ahead. Hopefully I cut it well enough. Yeah, there we go. Remove this. Oh, look, it's printed inside too, that's cool. This is neat. I might be holding onto this box. I don't usually hold on to boxes, but every once in a while, packaging is impressive enough where I do. Like the refractor gift set. All right. Look at this. We got some sort of a black thing in there. Is that the putty stuff? I think it's the putty stuff. So that's the compound that you may know about if you've looked at the product listing. It's a black, gooky, nasty thing that's hiding a little surprise. And here is some more Ancient Autobot. Alright, I actually had to break out the key and really analyze this, because this bottom message, the characters are all squished together, so it took me a few minutes. But translated, so these are the supposed spoilers. This first one is a letter written by Ultra Magnus. It says, I, Ultra Magnus, in good faith, hereby surrender to you. So, if you watch the trailer for the first season, you can kind of see that, right? It does look like he seems to be making some kind of deal or surrendering. But then this other one is a quote from somebody. It says, this can only mean one thing. Ultra Magnus is dead. Now, I'm a little skeptical. That's supposed to be the big spoiler that Ultra Magnus dies, but I mean, sure, he could. That would be a little weird for such a major character to be killed off in the first season of this new series. So, I don't know. I mean, the fact that oh, this can only mean one thing, I think it's just somebody being wrong about it being dead. But we'll find out soon enough come May. I don't totally buy it, in all honesty. Alright, let's see. Does this just lift out? Is this tape too? It is taped, isn't it? That's no bueno. Alright, got the tape off, so this we'll just set aside. Play with our icky goop in a bit. Honestly, not looking forward to that part. Alright. This way? This way. Okay, so here's our inner tray. And inside, you can see very clearly Ultra Magnus, as well as a clear pinkish red Rung figure. And looks like Rung comes with new Fire Blast effects, so that's cool. Straight redeco. Actually, some new parts here. I'll turn around. And this is what you get, you know, figure-wise. So if you were expecting something a little more original, you know, something more, dare I say, impressive, you're going to be disappointed. It's just Ultra Magnus with some dirt on him and a clear red Rung. That's it. I don't think there's any more spoilers. Yeah, see? No more text or anything. And inside there. So that is the big spoiler. Ultra Magnus' surrender, which most of us saw coming already, and then possible death. Which, again, I don't really buy it. So obviously, I'm very disappointed by what ended up being in here. Now, I already knew it was in here because I spoiled it for myself, but it doesn't make it hurt any less. Why? This is what we get. Just an Ultra Magnus with Rung. I mean, hey, if you don't have these two already, that's cool. This is the way to get them. Ultra Magnus was one of the harder to find leader classes. You know, not super hard to find, but he wasn't, you know, he always had Shockwave clogging shelves and never making room. Rung, on the other hand, has been pretty hard to find for most people, so if you don't mind it being a little pink, this is your shot at Rung, so that's cool. Now this excessive amount of like dark gray dirt or tarnishing or whatever on Magnus, I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to be. If that's supposed to be him graying out because he's dying, or if he's getting that goop on him that, you know, this comes with. That's supposed to be the idea. But, I don't know, I guess we'll find out eventually. Alright, before I break these guys out, let's do the instructions. And here they are, and it's pretty thick. Pretty hefty book here, so that's good. You got Autobot Ultra Magnus, Autobot Battlefield Rung. So, if this truly is a spoiler, I guess Rung's going to be pretty prominent in this continuity, and he's actually going to do some fighting, or at least be on the battlefield. Open it up, and just go straight to Ultra Magnus's like standard instructions. Same stuff that came with the regular version. All that good stuff, and then here in the corner is just Rung's transformation. Shows Magnus wielding him, and that's about it. I mean, luckily they're pretty big, they're fleshed out, so instructions aren't lacking, but there's not going to be anything really new here. So that's that. Alright, I want to get the icky stuff over with, so let's go ahead and mess with the compound. Does this like just come right out, or pull it out? Very Play-Doh-like, that's for sure. Come on, compound. Come on out. Oh, that's gross. It's basically just black Play-Doh. Okay. Why? Whose idea was this? Who was like, guys, Play-Doh with our Transformers. That's what we need. Alright, so here's like the black tar stuff. I'm thinking this has some kind of plot significance, maybe. And then inside of it, you get this little baggie that contains 3 Energon cubes. So, that's what you get. They're little, not very big, but kind of cool. More excited about the cubes and this black stuff that I now have to like find something to do with. Now here are the cubes out of the package, and I was surprised to realize that they're actually made of a very soft rubbery plastic, probably the same material that the Fire Blast effects are made from. So that was unexpected. I thought they'd be hard plastic. Makes them a little cooler, I guess. So, I mean, yeah, that's that. You can dig through black Play-Doh to get 3 little gummy-like Energon cubes. God, this is like the stupidest thing ever. Whose idea was this? Let's go ahead and do Rung here. So this new version of Rung is done up in this clear pinkish red color with a little bit of like a magenta for the arms and the pelvis. Very similar paint apps on the chest and head to the regular version. And other than that, just really nothing new to see. Obviously, he, being mostly clear plastic, you're going to want to be a little careful with him, especially probably here at that joint. Just, try not to crack it or put any kind of undue stress on it, because clear plastic will break on you very readily. So let's go ahead and compare them to the regular orange Rung. And like I said, color layout's pretty similar. The regular version has the added details of the yellow stripes on the chest and the brownish gray paint on the legs. Other than that though, pretty much the same. One is, I guess, just meant to be Rung, as he is normally, and the other one is like some sort of Energon supercharged version of him, or something. It's not quite clear yet. But given the presence of Energon cubes in the set, and then his very Energon-esque Fire Blast effects, I'm gonna guess, it has something to do with that. It's getting supercharged somehow. Now here are the weapon modes, and the major difference here being obviously the Fire Blast effects, whereas the regular Rung has these kind of like drill-shaped laser beams. This one's more like a forked lightning effect. And, it's good that they at least gave him new effects. Makes this pack seem not quite so samey. I will say though, these are significantly thinner, and I do have very real concerns about them becoming bent just from being placed in a certain prone position for too long, or possibly even being broken off with rough handling. So if you buy this set, I would say be careful with these. Like, see, mine are already just kind of bent from being in the packaging and existing. So they look cool, but it does leave some structural problems. All right, now we get to the main course of this box set, Ultra Magnus. And start with his main vehicle mode. You can see that his overall color layout is still very much the same. He's still pretty much white. We're supposed to be white, red. We're supposed to be red, blue, and so forth. Obviously, the big difference this time around is that there's a lot more of this dark gray on him. And some of it's paint, some of it's actual changes in the plastic colors. Like, this is gray plastic here. These whole red sections on the top, whereas in the original they're red plastic, they're actually gray plastic with some red paint, which ends up being quite a bit darker than the red plastic. His weapons are no longer like silver and white and red, they're all just done up in that dark gray color. And then his guns are the same black, but they lack the paint operation on the inside of the barrel there. It's normally silver. So what this toy seems to do is kind of follow the trend of the other Autobot characters that have been released so far in the Netflix line, in that they're pretty much the same toy, just with some extra like gray washing on them. It's kind of the best way to describe that. Like, I very much liken him to Chromia, where through a mix of gray plastic and gray paint, they just kind of make her look a lot dirtier without changing too much else about the toy. So it seems to be what they did here. Whether or not you like that is going to be entirely based on your tastes. Some people might want this cool like gradient or shading effect that they got going on here. me personally, if I had to just choose, if I could only have one Magnus, I'd probably get the one with the more standard colors. Just, you know, how often does a good Ultra Magnus toy come around, so. But this thing does look cool in its own right. The mixing with the gray, the darker reds do kind of help him blend in better with the aesthetic that the cartoon's going for. So it is, you know, it's got a very dark color palette to it. Here's a quick side-by-side with the regular version, just so you can see the differences. And to me, the biggest change, the most noticeable change, is the weapons in the back here. You know, they're very colorful on the regular version here. Here, they're just very much grayed out, and they look kind of lifeless. And here's that silver paint app I mentioned there. So yeah, not really one that's better or worse than the other, just two different styles, I would say. Here's a quick look at just the inner cab portion. And, you know, again, very similar appearance. The biggest thing that stands out to me at a first glance, honestly, is the fact that one of his smokestacks, and really the whole smokestack area, is entirely painted gray while the other one remains white. Just kind of a pretty visually striking little detail there. But otherwise, you know, one looks dirtier than the other. All right, here's our look at the inner robots. And yet again, the main difference is just the amount of gray that's kind of slathered on top of the new one. You know, if you kind of ignored that, the layout is pretty much the same. One thing that people noticed when images of this guy first started circulating is that he lacks an Autobot symbol on his shoulder, which led to a lot of speculation about, you know, a potential allegiance change. Which in some way, you know, kind of makes sense, especially given the spoilers of, you know, surrendering to the Decepticons. It doesn't seem to be the case though, because on his back, or, you know, the vehicle bumper, he does still have a little Autobot symbol. So even though it's less prominently displayed, his allegiance still seems to be to his Autobot compatriots. He's just surrendering for the greater good, I suppose. Oh yeah, it's also worth noting he does lack the silver paint application on his kneecaps. And the headlights on the front of the truck, now that I look at it. So, you know, they kind of got rid of the small minutia of details, you know, like the blue here, yeah, and replaced that with just a whole heaping, like, gallon of gray paint. I kind of like the contrasting colors. I think it's a cool look. Again, I don't know if I would buy this as my default Magnus. It's more of like a battle damage variant, I suppose. But it's kind of striking. In a way, I do think it has charm. All right, here's Ultra Magnus back in his armored form that we saw in the packaging. And again, no new, you know, surprises here as far as molding or anything like that. Pretty much the same paint map as his counterpart, just with all the gray thrown on there. I did notice that they seem to have just eliminated silver almost completely from him, except his face. That's kind of weird. They kept the silver paint for his face, but all like the trim and everything, where normally he'd have it, it's either just not there or replaced with the dark gray. So I don't know. It's weird. You know, they obviously had silver paint on him, but they didn't use any more of it. So couldn't tell you why they did what they did. As far as tolerances, everything feels pretty much the same as it does on the other Magnus. The only slight issue I ran into, probably should have mentioned it sooner, is that this, you know, big rifle of his had a really hard time fitting into the little hole that's in this red panel in the truck mode. And that's because the inside of the hole is painted red, which made it, you know, a really, really tight fit. And on the regular version, while this panel is painted, they don't paint the inside of the hole, so it fits a lot better. And I did get some plastic kind of, or not plastic, but paint, like scratch off on the handle there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's some red on it. So not a huge deal. Just be aware that you'll probably get some paint scraping on the inside of that hole. And the first time or two of plugging this in, it's probably gonna be a bit tight till, well, basically till you scrape some paint away. But nothing world ending. Why doesn't he want to stand up straight? There we go. Now for the mandatory side-by-side. like I said, not a whole lot of difference overall. You can see that his antennae have been colored dark gray instead of the silver with blue bases. You got some dark gray here instead of blue. I mean, you get the picture. Just gray everywhere. One of the places where they didn't bother putting any kind of paint is on this blue bit here. You don't have the like silver scraping effect that you have on the original. So you may or may not like that. I know some people really hate battle damage. Personally, I always found Magnus's battle damage to be pretty decent overall. You know, it's not excessive, it looks kind of realistic. Really just has it on like the chest, thighs, and toes, and that's it. So I was a fan. This new one, you know, I feel the same way about him in this form as I do the others. He's a little weird, but I do like the color contrast. Just as a visual thing to take in. It's really neat looking. Here's our obligatory shot of Magnus wielding Rung as a Battle Master. And, you know, they work well together. One issue I kind of have with Rung's Battle Master mode is that this back portion, it goes way, way back there and can create some issues for figures, especially smaller figures, who want to hold it and be able to like bend their elbows. They usually can't. He does hinder Magnus a bit, but he can at least get some kind of bend in his elbow, which is more than most of the Siege toys can say. So if you were going to pair Rung with it, you know, another figure, another character, Magnus is probably one of the best ones to choose. Alright, so now, coming to the end, what do I think of this as a total package? The stuff that's inside is fine. It's good. You know, Ultra Magnus is a good figure. Rung is a cool little Battle Master. He does come with the new Fire Blast effects. And, you know, you get some Energon cubes, which... Have they ever made official Energon cubes as toys before? I don't think they have. So maybe that clear cube thing that comes with Masterpiece Soundwave. The black Play-Doh I couldn't care less about. It just, if anything, just kind of annoyed me that I had to get my hands dirty. Now, do I also think that the whole execution of this release was kind of a little sleazy and underhanded? I absolutely do. I mean, they set expectations so high when they make this like mystery box, you know, and you're like, oh my god, what could be in this? It's gotta be something really special. It's Magnus and Rung. No new characters, no like crazy paint job for Ultra Magnus. It's just Magnus and Rung's pink now. And you get some Energon cubes. And it's $60. And that extra bit of money that you're paying beyond the, you know, $50 and like $6, $7 for Rung, you know, seems to go to like the Energon cubes, the packaging. So not a bad deal for everything that goes into it. But the disappointment on the internet, if you browse the forums and stuff, is palpable. People had all sorts of ideas and speculation as to what this was going to be. From, you know, the most out there, which is like a Delta Magnus character, or, you know, at least Diaclone colored Ultra Magnus, which personally I didn't believe for a second they were going to do that. That's more of a Takara thing, which, you know, could still happen. You had some slightly less out there stuff, like a Decepticon colored Magnus, which, you know, between the trailer with him making some kind of deal with the cons and the fact that we have a Decepticon Mirage, that wasn't really out of the question. I could have seen it. The one that I think was the most popular and the one I was really hoping for was getting Magnus with the cloak that he had in the Netflix trailer. I would have taken that cloak over like a pound of black Play-Doh any day. And I mean, they've done some good cloth, you know, some fabric cloaks before, like the Dark of the Moon Megatron from Studio Series has a fantastic one. I was hoping for something like that. Maybe that along with some more muted colors for the Ultra Magnus toy to make them kind of blend in better with the show. So, you know, people really set their sights kind of high with this, and maybe they should have, maybe they shouldn't have. You know, but I think they had to know that they were going to raise expectations beyond what they were actually going to deliver on. So at the end of the day, I mean, the whole like dig through the compound for Energon cubes, that's something you sell a young kid on. right? These, yes, they're toys. Primary market's kids, I understand that, but these really are targeted towards some older children or, adults like myself. Especially the very niche releases like this. So, I don't know. I really hate myself for spending $60 on this, but I just kind of felt I had to. Wanted to put the video out there, wanted to just get the full assortment, so I bit knowing what I was getting already, so I guess I can't blame anyone. I already knew it was coming. Now, beyond how much I like this, do I recommend this? Really, the only way I recommend this is if you don't already have Ultra Magnus and Rung, and the idea of Energon cubes is enough to get you to spend a few extra dollars. Beyond that, I mean, Ultra Magnus is still fairly easy to find even after Siege is kind of officially ended. I can go to a few places in my own county where I know I'll find some. And if you can't find them there, you can probably find them online for pretty cheap. And Rung, even though he was very hard to find in Siege, is getting a re-release in Earthrise. Where if he's anything like Smashdown was, he's probably going to shelf warm pretty bad because a lot of people that wanted Rung already picked him up. They're not going to buy him a second time. So I would kind of hold out, if you want less oddly colored versions of the character, something a little more standard, buy a $50 Magnus and a $6, $7 Rung figure when he comes out in Earthrise in the next wave, which should be hitting very soon. So I do want to apologize if this review is not more positive, but I really feel the need to be very honest with how I feel about things. I think this whole gimmick, this whole spoiler box was just a big letdown. I mean, the spoiler itself is just kind of like, meh. I mean, one entry was something we already know. The other one was like, well, maybe he's dead, maybe he's not. I kind of believe he's not. I mean, heck, if they were trying to sell us on the idea of him being dead, why not just make him like all gray and dead looking, like Optimus Prime did in the movie? So, who knows? Who knows what they were going for with all this, honestly? Is he dirty? Is he dying? Is he damaged? Who knows? He's just got gray stuff all over him. So, having said my piece now and given all my thoughts, I turn it to you. What do you think of this set? Is it worth the cost of admission for the extra little bit of goodies and the fancy packaging? Do you prefer these versions of the figures over the retail releases? And, what were you expecting from this? Were you disappointed when you found out, either through me or somewhere else before, what was actually in here? I really, really can't wait to see your guys' feedback on this one, because this is going to be a very divisive thing. And it's going to be a lot of strong opinions, and I am ready for that. If you did enjoy this admittedly rather rambly review, make sure to toss it a like, let YouTube know that